So the Maamer ki Yisholcha, first Maamer here. So it's Tafshin Lamed Ches, and the Rebbe was Magi in Tafshin Nun. And as it says on the bottom of the page 3, that the Rebbe was Mechalik the Maamer L'kol Echad V'Echad Ma'anoshim Nashim V'Taf. So this actually makes this Maamer ganz unique. B'chlal, the Seder, the Rebbe started the Chalukah of Maamorim in Tafshin Mem Ches Be'ikir. Meaning in earlier years there was Mechalik Tanya a few times. There were Chalukis Pratius, to Shluchim, to different Kvutzis that came, of different Koivtzim. But the of the Chalukah of Mamari Chassidus, Betzim started Tafshin Mem Ches. The Rebbe then gave out Yisholcha Chaf Cheshvan Tafshin Mem Ches to all boys over 12, all girls over 11. Mufla Samach Lish. Then, there were Chalukahs already to everybody. But there was a Chalukah right after Yisholcha. There was a Chalukah by the Kinus HaShluchim then, where the Rebbe was talking Mechalik his own Maamer. Shafti b'Shalom. B'Vaita, that was a Chalukah. You could call it Chalukah Pratis. It was Chalukah to the Shluchim. The Rebbe was very medayik, was considered a shliach then. Hemshech Lazeh already started Chalukahs Tanashim Nashim Etap. But the Chalukahs were while they were Kontresim of Chassidus, the Rebbe wasn't Mechalik his own Mamarim, his own Sichas as a Kontres. The first few years, the Chalukahs were all from the Rebbeim. Maamer the Friedike, Maamer from the Tzemach Tzedek, Kontres from this Rebbe, from that Rebbe. I believe that Ki Yisholcha was the first Maamer that Rebbe was Mechalik, the Kol Echad V'Echad, Nashim Nashim V'Taf. The Rebbe was Mechalik his own Maamer was Ki Yisholcha. Tafshin Nun. After that, it already became more ragil, ad kedekach that in the end of Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, where there were many chalukis, came out all the chalukis were the Rebbe's Maamer and Sichas. The Kuntres Chav Chesivin was already was the Maamer of Chav Chesivin, the Kuntres Chav Shvav, the Rebbe's Sichas Maamer and Shem Yisrael, etc., etc. Throughout Nun Beis, there were many chalukis. They were almost all of the Rebbe's Torah. This was the first one. This chalukah was in the Rebbe's house, Tafshin Nun. You know that Tafshin Mem Ches after Chav Shvat, so the Rebbe was in his house for the next year, Kimat. Then the Rebbe moved back to 770, but even after that, there were times that the Rebbe went back and forth to the house. And the winter of Tafshin Nun, Kimat the whole winter, during the week, the Rebbe was in the house. They would be in the house from Monday to Thursday, Berech. And this went on by the Chodshei HaChoyref, Tafshin Nun, and pretty much until Pesach, Tafshin Nun. So Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe was in the house. The Rebbe did the Chaluk in the house. And after Pesach, the Rebbe moved back to 770, and pretty much from then on, the Rebbe was in 770, Kimat the entire time, besides for small stints going back home, as he goes to Menaklal. So that's why, so this Chalukah, there weren't many Chalukis of Chassidus in the Rebbe's house. This Chalukah was in the Rebbe's house. So that's the Maamer ki Yisholcha. Now the fact that the Rebbe did, how many Maamorim would the Rebbe give out throughout all the years and later years? There weren't that many. In other words, the Rebbe handpicked Sfarim and Koivtzim of Chassidus, Maamorim of Chassidus to give out, and this is one of the Maamorim. So it shows on its Chavivas, and they give it out at home. So that's the Erste Zach. The Zweite Zach is, and we're talking about this, just the Magish, and also when we come back to it later, is the Rebbe brings in Sif Gimel that Yuvin Zebehektim Ashkos Hakim Chad Mur B'Mori Dimaschol Zeh Sha'omrei B'Chag Pesach Harishim Evoy La'artzis Abris Amanas Ladur. So one of the kids, and they brought the Haggah that initially I believe it was written B'Pam Hashniya. They were changing to Amanas Ladur. And this is an interesting word because the Chayrim Maamer are not a history channel, and it's not a place to explain to us when each Maamer was said and where it's said. But you see this throughout Melukit and also in Sichis and the Farbrengens. The Rebbe had a special Chavivis for the Maamorim and Sichis that were said this year, the year of Tafshin, which is when the Friedrich Rebbe came for the second time, or the first time he came, Taf Reish Tzadik. Taf Reish Peites, Friedrich Rebbe went on a trip starting with Eretz Yisrael. As the Rebbe would say often, that it wasn't Eretz Yisrael as much as it was that he couldn't go to the Kvarim, instead of the Kvarim went to Eretz Yisrael. The Hemshech Lazeh, a big part of the year Taf Reish Tzadik, he was in America. Tishrei Taf Reish Tzadik, Friedrich Rebbe was here from Bringden, New York. But that was a visit, so it wasn't a kviyus. Mashenkin over here was Manas Lader, a kviyus. In the Sikha of Purim Tafshin Dalad Mem, so right before the Maamer, the Rebbe says the Maamer Belaylahu, that's Miyusan Belaylahu Tafshin. So Belaylahu is Mamish the first Maamer Friedrich Rebbe said in America. The Friedrich Rebbe came Tes Adar, and this is Purim. So there, the Rebbe gives a whole arichis about the chavivis and what makes this Rebbe they are speaking about the first Maamer, B'lai Lahu, what makes it unique that the Friedrich Rebbe came to America, even though he was there before, and everything that a Yid does, definitely a Tzaddik does, is a Kviyas, command the Kviya Damya. You know, the Rebbe always quote from Friedrich Rebbe. They asked the Friedrich Rebbe, Mashiach's coming any day, why are we building moistus? And the Friedrich Rebbe answered that in the Midbar, Kasher Yachnu Ken Yiso, in the Midbar there were 42 Masas over 40 years, but it wasn't a Masa per year. Some were 18 years, and some Masas were a night, a few days. And yet, nevertheless, wherever they stopped, the ganze, because it was Al Pi Ratzin Hashem, Al Pi Das of the Kaddish Baruch Hu, so it's a kviyas. So it's always even though Mashiach's coming but every moment is a kviyas. So Eina Chanam, the first time Friedrich Rebbe came was a kviyas. Aber it's a kumnish to the kviyas from the Manas Loder. And in Andere Werter, it seems that the Rebbe looks at Tafshin is not just another year of Chassidus, but it's the beginning of the American Chassidus of America. So the first Maamer is the Pasach, it's the Psichsat Sinner of the Chassidus in America. So that's when we get to the first Maamer, but the whole Tafshin is the first year, especially these Maamer, when you talk about Pesach, it's still Mamish the Erste Maamer in America. So the Rebbe, it seems that the Rebbe saw these Maamerim as the beginning of the American Chassidus. Now, what's meant American Chassidus? It's not American Bachar, it's American Chassidus. And the American Chassidus is the Hadgashes, which now, after so many years, so many six Maamerim of the Rebbe, we see it in the Rebbe's Torah, certain in Yonan der Mamish Boilet. The Dugme, in Basi Lagani, Tafshin Yud Aleph, the Maamer Kabbalah and Asiyas, severe, the Rebbe also brings from Tafshin, from the first year in America, where the Rebbe speaks about Atikra Vayikra Vayakri and the Mesiras Nefesh, the difference between the Mesiras Nefesh of Avraham Avinu and Rebbe Akiva. Now, the Rebbe doesn't say this clearly, but the Rebbe were speaking about the Avodah of Deir Shvi, and we're looking. We want the Avodah of Mesiras Nefesh of Avraham, not Rebbe Akiva. Rebbe Akiva gezucht Mesiras Nefesh. Avraham gezucht Mesiras Nefesh. As when dark Mesiras Nefesh, we use Mesiras Nefesh. So while the Rebbe doesn't say it explicitly, but l'chayra, it's mamish the chiddush of Chassidus in America and Deir Shvi. Right? But in Russia, by the Friedrich Rebbe, for care, the Beferish Avodah was zucht Mesiras Nefesh. That was mamish the Avodah Rebbe Akiva. There's L'shoinus of the Friedrich Rebbe, where Friedrich Rebbe says, it was mamish during the Shveret Zeit, and he says, Chevre, chap Mesiras Nefesh. Zuch Mesiras, chap Mesiras Nefesh. Mamish the Avodah Rebbe Akiva, because there the Avodah wasn't Mesiras Nefesh. In America, zuch not Mesiras Nefesh. The Avodah is to do what you gotta do. If you need Mesiras Nefesh, you do Mesiras Nefesh. It's a different kind of Mesiras Nefesh. So there it's mamish boilet, that the Rebbe started with the Nesiyas, and the Rebbe the Rebbe brings this Nekuda from Tafshin, that this is the Avodah here. Here, I don't know if it's that, it's not that explicit over here, and it's not that clear, but here as well, as we'll learn the Maamerim, especially this Maamer of Yisholcha, you see that in this Maamer, Mamish touches upon Ubafla a lot of the Yisoidis in the Rebbe's Torah, in the Rebbe's Sichis, in the Rebbe's Maamerim, themes that the Rebbe goes back to again and again and again. Here, Mamish brought out very, very well and very Mesuder Kiviyachol, and especially, we'll get back to this soon, we'll see how the Rebbe learns this Shiloh, the Friedrich Rebbe in Tafshin, different than the way the Friedrich Rebbe himself learns it. And the Rebbe uses it to come to a new beer, different than the regular beer that the Chassidus has Bichlal, that starts off this Maamer in Sif Aleph, but in this Maamer of Tafshin, the Rebbe sees the beginning of a new Mahalach in Yisholcha that connects to a lot of Yisoidis in the Rebbe's Torah that we'll get to. So in the flow of this Maamer, so let's say a few, it's from two sides. You could call it the Kalim of the Maamer and the Oiris of the Maamer. So the Kalim of the Maamer, first of all, is Pasha the Seder, the Mahalach of the Maamer. Right? So in general, Malukit, many of Maamerim are written as a Seder, and there's a Shaila, an answer, and a Shaila, and a Biur. But Yisholcha is Mamish, there's many layers here. There's a Shaila, there's an answer, there's a deeper question, a deeper answer, and it goes weiter and weiter, and ultimately it comes all full circle. It's very geschmack. But also the oisius that the Rebbe uses, or there is a Maarim, we discussed this in other Maarim as well. In the Maarim, there's the Kalim, there's the oisius, and then there's the Toichin. So what are the Kalim? You could say the Kalim here of the Maamer. The Kalim, besides for the Shaila, Yisholcha, and the Ben Chacham, The Kelim is the sugya of Eidos Chukim and Mishpatim, which Weiter is one of the sugyas that are mamish la'orkel l'rach with the Rebbe's Torah. It's not really a sugya that you'll find that much in Chassidus before the Rebbe, and by the Rebbe it's mamish a sugya gedola. We have it on the drive as well. The koivitz after Gimel Tammuz, Rabbi Yel worked on a few koivitzim based on the Rebbe's Torah. I think it finished with 2 koivitzim, and then he moved into other styles. It was my Chanukah, and there's Eidos Chukim Mishpatim in the Rebbe's in the Mishnah Shal Rebbe in the Rebbe's Torah. The Eidos Chukim Mishpatim is mamish a sugya shlema, and it's very mumlitz to look at the that work itself and the Makairis, the states of the Sichas, the Maamerim. Some of them are Mitzuyin here in the Maamer and the Maamer Koimas. So Eidos Chukim Mishpatim is the platform through which the Rebbe goes through the sugya and goes through the Maamer. That itself is a very gishmak sugya. And then you go more the oiris, the toichin of the Maamer, the toichin advarim is also classic. It's Malasoyev ben Atzmos, which happens to match up with Eidos Chukim Mishpatim. Malasoyev ben Atzmos, and the way the Rebbe is invited by Riches, the Chiyuv and Shlila Sashlila. Gerade we're coming off from the Maamer of Purim, Al Kin Karu. There's a lot of parallels. Well, we'll use the Lashonis from there. There the Lashonis were Seichel, Ratzin, Goyrol, and Bchira. And here we have Mishpatim, Chukim, and Eidos, right? And there's Chidushim in this Mahalach, in this Oifen al Limud than over the previous Maamer. We'll get to that as Hashem later. But with the same Nekuda, it's the same Viter. You see it throughout, and ultimately that flush of it up, just like we finished last Maamer, that it's not just Bchira the way it's moved from it's Bchira the way it's in Slavish in Goyrol. So the same thing here. We'll have the Eidos Mitzad Echad is higher than everything else. Atzmos is higher than Mala and Soivet. Tzacheni, V, Sidrik Tzeches, and how it's in Schaber with Chukim and Mishpat. Because at the end of the day, the Eibush doesn't want things to stay only in the way of Eidos, only in the way of Atzmos. Fine. Now, when you get to in this Maamer itself, so in the first Sif, Yisholcha, so the Rebbe brings a shaila that's brought in the Drushim, and the answer that's brought in the Drushim. Right? The shaila is Yadu Adik with Drushim Abseinu Sienu. The Rebbe brings here Dalid, Teres, Tafshin, and other Maamerim. And then there's the answer in the second ket of Sif Aleph, Nekudas Abir V'Zeh B'Adroshin. Right, where the shaila is the what's Tziva that the Ben Chacham says Tziva Vaylekeinu Eschem, and what's the Eschem? He's part of it, and he's not a Rosh, not Yitzmi Naklal. Well, Nachmer, the fact that he says Oisana Asher Tziva Vaylekeinu, he is including himself in Klal Yisrael. So he is including himself. He doesn't say Rachman al Tzan She'en Li Chelik L'Kei Yisrael. So what's the pshat Eschem? So the beer that's brought in the drushim, right? I'm going to point this out now because it's important to know this for later, right? The drushim. So there's here he brings also the Amari Admar Say wasn't brought earlier, and then there's a teres and tafshin. Vayokem Eidos, he finishes the 14th. Vayokem Eidos hemshech lamaymer demasal Yisholcha. I believe that there's both Maamerim here in Koivitz. Where the question is in the first Maamer and is in Yisholcha, and the answer is in Vayokem Eidos. So the Rebbe's been saying here to the Maamer of the Friedrich Rebbe, but then he's been saying later because something changes there. What's in the Nekuda answer? The Nekuda answer is that the reason why he says Eschem is because he is trying to exclude, but not himself. He's not trying to exclude himself. He's trying to exclude the previous doiris. Who's speaking here? The child of the parents that leave Mitzrayim. Right? In Parshas Boy. With Derech Halacha, we learn that Yisholcha is speaking about Yitzias Mitzrayim. So the child asks his father after they left down the line, but the father that left Yitzias Mitzrayim and received the Torah 50 days later, and so the child is excluding the grandparents and the great grandparents, the previous doiras, the Avis, and the Shvatim, those that went in Derech Avis. He's excluding them. So he says Eschem to say you and not others, not the previous days. Why is he excluding the Avis? Because what's bothering him is, and this would answer the other questions that are brought in the Maamer. The Ben Chacham doesn't know about mitzvahs, doesn't know what the Teichim of mitzvahs are, all the questions he asked in the beginning of Sif Aleph. And the Vart is that the Ben Chacham Of course he appreciates the mitzvahs. What he doesn't understand is their klab kap nevant when it comes to mitzvahs acher matan Torah. The mitzvahs of before matan Torah, the mitzvahs of the Avis, makes a lot of sense. The new mitzvahs he doesn't get. Now just understand the Ben Chacham, the Ben Chacham, right? He asks the Yisholcha Till, Ben Chacham doesn't know anything. Now what's interesting in the Maamer is, it also makes the Maamer very unique, that by the time the Maamer is done, there's going to be many layers and levels to the question and the answer to Ben Chacham. And ultimately, like, which question is he actually asking, right? There's many questions here. Right? You come and say, but what's clear is already in the beginning, the Ben Chacham is a Yid must learn Chassidus. Right? This question, the initial question that Chassidus asks, the way Chassidus understands it and Chassidus answers, the Drush and Michlal, it's a Chassidus Shayla. Right? Because you could say, what's the point of these mitzvahs? It's tradition, culture, you do things. It's a way. But what does Chassidus teach us? Chassidus teaches us that mitzvahs are Amshachas Alikos. Mitzvahs are Tzavs Adar mit den Eibishten. So maybe the mitzvahs of the Abbas were all about Ruchnius to make sense. The Eibishter is Ruchni. Or Kolpani is not Gashmi. And we're connecting to the Eibishter with our hearts, with our minds. Yispoilinus, Abavira, fine. So the Iker is the Ruchnius, that makes sense. But now comes Matan Torah. Matan Torah tells you it's all about a Maisa with Iker, it's all a Maisa with Poil. What's a Maisa with Poil with the Eibishter? And B'hem Shech Lezeh comes the answer. B'hem Shech Lezeh in the Maamer, there's going to be many questions of the many fanim, and some of them are even contradictory. There are going to be paradoxical questions and answers. How we understand the Ben Chacham, it's how the shava of all these shilas are. It's not coming from ignorance. It's coming from deep havana, deep idea, and it's almost like one leads to the next. Once you understand the first question and answer, then the Ben Chacham comes the next year by the Seder and asks, and then then why? Right? So it's a journey that you're constantly asking questions, giving answers. But the way Chassidus works, by the time you reconcile one issue, the opposite issue arises, and you have to reconcile that as well until you find an answer that resolves everything. Now, here the shaila is, if the mitzvahs of the Avis were beruchnius, so what's the place of the pu'ula begashmius that the Avis did? Right? Because the Ben Chacham doesn't understand the teichen of the mitzvahs at Maisius today. The Avis he understands. Fine. So, Rama Vino, from 3 years old till 48, right? There's different gersois. When Hikir is Bayre, the way the Rebbe learns that all the Midrashim, it's different stages in Avram's Hakara. Till Hitzitzil Allah Balabira, and Avram comes it builds a connection and becomes aware of the Eibishter. So if a relationship with the Eibishter is about Havana Basaga and Midas, then why Bechlal did we do any Ma'aseh Mitzvahs? When it comes to Pesach, we're talking about matzahs here. When the earthly caves, it says that Avram brought matzahs. And many mitzvahs that were done, there were many Ma'aseh mitzvahs. So what's the teichen of the Ma'aseh mitzvahs? So the way that Rebbe says in the beginning of the second kata of Sif Aleph, Kiyam mitzvahs shall always haya in Sugaim be'ikar avodah ruchnis, because there was an element of Gashmis here. Pula shal Gashmis hoysa ke'ein kli lo avodah ruchnis. That's the lashon. They did Pulis Begashmius. But what was the taken of Pulis Begashmius? It was Ke'ein Kli. Interesting lashon. Ke'ein Kli La'avodah Ruchnis. The Shmamash the Kli, Ke'ein Kli. Masha'enk the mitzvahs that were given by Matan Torah, the Iker is Ma'aseh B'Poil. It says at length that Ad Kedei Kach, a person has all the kavanas to eat matzah, but you didn't actually eat matzah, you weren't yoytz to the mitzvah. Masha'enk, you eat matzah without any kavana, it brings on bottom that by matzah, even if you don't have the kavana, Latzis Dei Chivasa, you're yoytz. Right? So you force this guy Nebuch to eat matzah, and he's yoytz. Then you have a Chevreman that learns Gan Shara Emunah and learns all the Mamarim on matzah, but Pasha, he slept through it, or he Pasha couldn't find matzahs, he's stuck in Siberia, and there is initiates. Because the mitzvahs there are Ma'aseh B'Poil, but by the others there were Ma'aseh B'Poil. So you say, what's the place of Ma'aseh B'Poil? So we have to understand why Taka was their fart Ma'aseh B'Poil then, and then once we understand the Ma'aseh B'Poil then, the flow of the Ma'aseh B'Poil today is a lot stronger. So the emes is that this sugya of the mitzvahs of Koinat and Torah, Nachar Matan Torah, the Rebbe's Torah is right there, mamish, a very essayistic sugya brought a lot. So here in page 109, there's a lot of Maamer Mekoimus. Look at the Sichas about the earlier Chalakim. And the different Sichas, he uses different oisias. Sometimes it's more technical, and sometimes it's more Pnimis Inyan. So sometimes mizakta a pashta vart. What's the nikuda? Take the obvious mitzida wouldn't do anything begashmis. They're nashim ruchnim. Their whole Indian is ruchnis. They're avoid is ruchnis. Elamai, because Maisa of is similar Bonim. And the Bonim, meaning after Matan Torah, Avodah is Maisa Bepoil, but if the Ovis will only do their Avodah, Beruchnius, we won't be able to learn from them, we won't be able to get any koyach from them. So Batson, their Avodah is Ruchni, our Avodah is Gashmi. What they did is they did Epis, something Begashmi, Kilo Mein Achiza. Like the Rebbe brings often, the Rebbe explains when you get to give me $, and when you get to Contrasim and other Inyanim, that they would bring the Ramban, that the Nevi'im, when they would give over Nevuah, they would do a pull Gashmis, or hold on something Begashmis. That's it, they should have an Achiza. So the obvious is something Begashmis, to have an Achiza to our Avodah Begashmis. It was it's very, very chitzonistic azach, or even when you hear, you realize it's not the full word, because if Takade no shaykhs to the Gashmias, then it's not a game. You can't play as if you have a shaykhs to the Gashmias. I want to have a shaykhs somebody I have no shaykhs, so I play as if I'm him. Other hasiyas, other has nicht. In some sikhs, the Rebbe says a word that because the Ovis were merkava, it says in Tanya, the Ovis were merkava, b'chol ivrei and v'gidei. So their guf, their Gashmias, was bottled to the Eibishter and Gans. To Ratzon Hashem. So if right now they're connected to the Eibishter, you can't differentiate by the Ovis their neshamas from their gufim. Their gufim, just like a merkava follows the rider, doesn't have an opinion, even a horse that will follow. At the end of the day, I can't call it pchire, but the horse could decide to stop. The merkava can't stop. If its wheels break, but that's something chitzoni. Right? The merkava just follows where the rider takes him. So their gufim automatically just followed. So they're gufim. Well, they're chelke be'oilom, they're pulis gashmis. They were serving the Eibishter beruchnis. It had some manifestation begashmis, right? Which is already more pneumistic of art. But weiter. So it's mamish not. And what's the kli? So what's the kli? The kein kli la'avodah ruchnis. So the kein kli la'avodah ruchnis seems that we're saying more, that there is a makim, there is something important about the Gashmias, elamai, as much as it serves as a kli to the ruchnis. So l'dugmeh, there's a mashal that the Rebbe brings a few places in Likutei Sichos. The Rebbe brings this v'negeya to Yehudim Gashmim la'asid lavei. The why the la'asid lavei? It's only a Marei Chazal Psukim telling us about Merd exactly will get la'asid lavei when Mashiach comes. And things that were growing on trees will be able to eat the tree itself. And who cares? Mashiach's coming. Malar is Hashem v'ayal mechasim. So who needs all these inyanim? So maybe you could come and say that it's just to be mo'ided us, even people that don't care. But then you're being shoylo, but then you're saying there's no shaykhs to those that do care, that are ruchni and don't care about these inyanim. There's a whole back and forth. And the kudah that Rebbe says is, when Mashiach comes, the world is going to be in sync with Torah, right? Completely in sync the way Torah is. So that's in a perfect world. We learn Torah, we kayim mitzvahs, and it's not the geshmeichim b'ita. Not mitzvah schar. It's not a schar. It's not schar mitzvah. You do what I want. You fulfill the contract. You go according to the rules. I'll give you what you need. It's automatic. The Torah is if the rois and pikasois from Welt. Torah is the marker from Welt. And that's in a perfect world. When Torah is Kediboi, Yisrael Kediboi, and the whole world is Torah B'Shvil Yisrael. So when Torah and Yisrael are on top, the world is the way it should be. In Zman HaGalos, there are all kinds of minis, Kuvim, and somehow you have a matziv of tzaddik viraloi, and Rasha v'toivlei. Tzaddik and doesn't have a good life, and Rasha has a good life. That's a shayla. How could that happen? And that's taka shayla we've been dealing with for many generations, and there aren't perfect answers. Meaning, at the end of the day, sometimes the answer is shtoikachol machshava. We don't always understand it, but in a proper world, the ruchis and gashmias are kulachat. So when things are the boy beruchis, they're gashmias. The dugman that Rebbe brings the mashal someone dancing by chassan. What's the word dancing by chassan? So he goes to his wedding. He goes to a wedding. So a guy goes, especially a chachzunas bro yechidei, which is born in Chassidus as the ultimate simcha. So you're at the chassan. The person is happy. Happy means that you're dancing and you're clapping. No, happy means that you're happy. But the regesh is so strong that it's choyder till the akiv sheberegel, till the lowest part of the body, because the entire body is bottle and in sync with the nefesh. Person will come and say, I'm sitting here, I'm super happy. Very nice. But if you taka be happy, you would dance. So that's one. One oifen is that it's a bitu. It's a bitu, which Betzim connects to the word that the Rebbe says in the Sichos, that the others were merkava, the guf were merkava, in the Hainu. Their nefesh and guf were one. If your nefesh is there, your guf is going to follow. The oilam is going to follow. The emes is that there's also farkeret. There's also farkeret. Right, the Rebbe Mitzayin, Igros Rebbe Mitzayin to it, also in the Sichos, the famous letter that Tzemach Tzedek, where he gives an answer about how to deal with pachad and how to be besimcha. And one of the he says there is that even if you're not in the mood of simcha, do tnuas of simcha. Yasa, exact lashon. Do tnuas of simcha. Biyadayim, b'raglayim, start dancing, clap, smile. What's the word? I'm depressed. Why am I happy? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about human beings that the nefesh and guf are kulachar, right? Nefesh and guf are not two different things that end up together by mistake. The guf, the guf chai, and the nefesh is poil through the guf. At the end of the day, when the guf put itself in a tnua of simcha, even if the nefesh is not there, it could be goyrim the nefesh to go there. But we know the ultimate. Well, you see that ultimately the guf is poil on the nefesh. If you're tired, your brain doesn't work. You can't think. What's the shaykh's tiredness to thinking? This is a nefesh in, and because your body it doesn't have koyach, so stuff. They're totally zebazeh. So you have both ways. So you have either that the ikr is the ruchni and the ruchni brech durch and is poil on the gashmi, or I use the gashmi as a tool. At the end of the day, I'm here in this world and I want to connect beruchnias. So sometimes you do physical actions where we always do these things. There's certain stuff that you do that are ma'ir the lev, and stuff that you do that are ma'ir the moyach and get you thinking. So you see this. You see, let's say, if you come to chas and you see people dancing. So you have one of two. Either the guy is so happy he's dancing, or the chaverman came and was like, okay, let me dance and it'll get me in the mood. But what if a guy would come to you and say, there's a third oif. You're not dancing because you're happy, and you're not dancing to make you happy. Why are you dancing? And also not for simchas chassan mekal to make the chassan think that you're happy. Why are you dancing? Because das is their inyan. L'kayim mitzvah simcha. One second, but I don't enjoy dancing, and I'm not getting anything out of it, and there's no reason why I'm doing it. No, in them, that's simcha. Yeah, people that can do this a lot. Yeah, it's a chiyuv on the etzem rikud. So the average guy would say, "Kol shemei Yitzchak." What kind of teichel is that? There's nothing to that. Just clap your hands. Why? No reason. And that's the word of Matan Torah. Matan Torah is basically the Eibishter telling us, the Yer Davai Alar Sinai, and gives us mitzvahs maisius, that from now on, you know what religion is? It's dancing, not because you're happy, and not to bring you to ecstasy. Dancing l'shem dancing. And walking. Right? So there's mamish no teich. Not mila'el, not mila'ra, not mila'fanam, not mila'achra. So by the obvious, that was the teichen of the Ma'aseh Poil. Because that was the teichen of the Ma'aseh Poil, so there always was some Ma'aseh Poil, but the pratim weren't so important. So Labashal. Gebrach nechsidis, that by Yaakov Avinu, he was Mekayim mitzvahs tefillin how? Through the maklis. Make the semanim on the maklis for the sheep. And that's always yet to tefillin. A guy would come today and do tefillin on the sticks. That's not tefillin. You have to take oil of a behemoth and put it on your arm. Because the Gashmi's then was a tool. Either it was a tool or it was an outcome. It was a titzah. So the Prophet was trying to get say there. A guy will come and say, you have to be happy. You're happy, you dance. Does it make a difference if I dance this kind of dance? So I go in a circle, or I go straight, or I make a kula. Christian pratim. The guy's mishugin. The guy's asking how to dance. Figure out whatever works for you. But if the hadgasha is the dance itself, okay, so which dance does the Eibishter want? And that's what the Eibishter wants. The Eibishter wants a whole bunch of dry mitzvahs. And comes the Ben Chacham and says, I know what mitzvahs are all about. So what are these dry, senseless mitzvahs? And the answer is that the tshuva is Mitzrayim. We went through Mitzrayim, which prepares for Matan Torah. By Matan Torah, the Eibishter, it's interesting, the Rebbe says the beer here, but says very, very bekitzer. In the Sichos, this mamish, in this, and also Maamer of Shavuos, it's brought a lot. Especially the Mugadik Maamer, by Daber Chavtes, and many Sichos, where the Rebbe brings the Maamer Chazal, that the mitzvahs of Avis were Reichos, Avalonu Shemen Turak Shmecha, that basically the mitzvahs Matan Torah come from Atzmos, and Atzmos Just like he's not Gashmi, he's not Ruchni, or his Hecher von Alts. And by Atzmus, it's all one thing. Was will the Eibishter? And the Eibishter wants Maisa B'Poil, Asiyah Le'ela, and Dafka, the fact that there is no Gilui, there's no Seichel, there's no Midas. That's what connects to the Eibishter. It's not us building a relationship to the Eibishter, it's the Eibishter building a relationship with us and telling us how to go about that relationship. Fine. So the Rebbe goes on and asks, that if that's the case, Eschem, so that explains we could say that Eschem is Shoylel the Ovis, and Eschem only means the parents. But there was a better way. Say Yisanu, then say you're Shoylel the Ovis, and say you don't bring the suffix or the lack of clarity on where is the Chacham himself in this parsha. It's interesting that multiple times the Rebbe says L'chayra. Right, Tzarech l'havim de l'chayra, the beginning of Sif Beis. And then 4 lines later, Abuzel Yamuvin l'chayra, Gam Kshaya Eimer B'Lashon Kel Yisrael, Shayir Tzivay Keno Yisanu. The Rebbe is very, the Rebbe is very not forceful about it. And I think the Vart is because it's only a l'chayra. Because Yesh Makim Leimer Take that there is a Mailin Eschem over Yisanu for the Etzem Vart. Because at the end of the day, Yisanu is very inclusive. It's very inclusive. When I say us, it would say often Yeder von Eich and Yeder von uns. When you say us is everybody. So Taka, he's not saying explicitly the others. Right? In Sif Aleph, then the first Sif Aleph, he brought 2 options: either say Yisanu or say Elikenu without saying anything. L'chayra, what the Rebbe is timing is. The way that Rebbe learns it is that the biur only answers the second half. Why we don't say Shatiya Avayu Bichlal? Because we're trying to exclude someone here. But why we use Eschem and not Isanu, that's a shaila that's still sitting here, and that Rebbe over here in base. But at the end of the day, Isanu also doesn't exclude. It doesn't really say, us could be anybody. When you say Eschem, you're excluding. The moment you exclude, who you're excluding here. Saying Nechanami, the Lashon is a bit dangerous because it sounds like what's going on with the Ben Chacham Alein. Mitzad Sheni, l'chayra, there is a Mailin Eschem that we're not including everybody. Fine, Maamer Muzger. Then the Rebbe goes on and asks the Shaila, and this Shaila is what makes the Rebbe pivot from the regular beer of Chassidus, that if the whole Vart, the way Chassidus Mevar, the whole Vart is that what's the Teichen of the new mitzvahs, the post-Matan Torah mitzvahs that are all about Maaseh, then what's the Pshat? Ma Eides Chukim HaMishpatim. Eides Chukim HaMishpatim is all about Kavanah. In Maaseh mitzvahs, there's no Eides Chukim HaMishpatim, it's all Kavanah-oriented divisions. So if the whole Vart is with the Chiddush of mitzvahs of Matan Torah and all Maaseh B'Poil, then the question is Iker Chasr V'Naseder. And other questions on the Seder, Eides Chukim HaMishpatim, etc. So this leads the Rebbe in Sif Gimel to the new Shaila. Has it ever come to the new Shaila? The Yuvans of Behektim, what the Friedrich Rebbe wrote in his Maamer, in the diuk of the Shaila of En Chacham Ksiv Eschem, so the 3rd line of Sif Gimel, okay. But here's the Moisef Ba Maamer. This is a Yisafa that the Friedrich Rebbe has that isn't brought in the earlier Maamarim, in Nundal, in Nateres, and then the Middle Rebbe, it's Matzadek, etc. It's an added diuk of Friedrich Rebbe. By this added diuk, the Rebbe sees a Pesach to a new beer.
And in Vayakim Eidos, the Rebbe does not answer this, doesn't clearly answer, Friedrich Rebbe doesn't clearly answer this diuk that we're bringing.
But not only doesn't answer, the answer goes verkehrt. So what's the diuk? The diuk is Moiseh Ba Maamer, the Agam Shal Ben Chacham Eimer Vaylikenu, Shu Machnis Atzmei B'Klal Yisrael, M'Kal Avil Machu Shemayim, Herozeo B'Negel Lo Yikr. You know what Maamer now? Zeo B'Negel Lo Yikr. B'Negel Lo Pirte Yon Yon Yidus Chuk Mishpatim Hu Eimer Eschem. Friedrich Rebbe adds a diuk right earlier in Chassidus. We said the Chayda, and he says Vaylikenu Eschem. Like it's like the Ben Rasha. Ma'avoid does Yisholcha. He's being shoyl. Elamai, but he says Elikenu. He's bavarning. Don't worry, I'm within the fold. I'm part of the chevra. But why get into such an issue? So the Friedrich Rebbe goes weiter, and Friedrich Rebbe says, no, it's not. The issue is not fully taken care of by saying a Yisanu, by saying Avayli Kenu. It's not like Eschem is the issue, but Avayli Kenu evens it out, so we're cool, but why go there? No, even after Avayli Kenu, the issue still stands. Not only the issue still stands, in a certain way, the Avayli Kenu magnifies the issue. Why? Because when someone tells you a sentence, where in the middle of the sentence they change language, Avayli Kenu Eschem, it seems like it's very, very. If we weren't say, they wouldn't say this clearly, but if you weren't say Avayli Kenu, okay, it's nice that people speak that language. Like I'm talking in second person. I'm not talking about myself. Well, it's a lot more comfortable to speak. I'm talking about me. Mediterranean, right? But when a person says Avayli Kenu, so you are koil a lot. Then you say Eschem. So it seems that you are, but you're not. You're not you are including yourself, but you're excluding yourself in certain inyanim. In which inyanim? So basically, we said earlier that Yisholcha Mishpatim now it makes sense that l'chayra the havan of the ben in the Shalom ben Chacham is that he's a Avayli Kenu. I accept him as a Kenu, which is the klal. I accept the Eibishter as the Eibishter. I accept the Eibishter as the Eibishter, and I accept his mitzvahs, etc. Asher tziva Avayli Kenu eschem is the Eidus Chukim Mishpatim that he's struggling with. L'chayra, this is what it's implied. He's struggling with Eidus Chukim Mishpatim. That bothers him. Okay. So, what does Rebbe learn from here? Maamer mashma shadiuk because there's Maamer eschem uleirak should sort of be your lama Maamer eschem. It seems that the question isn't only why he says eschem, which is like what's brought in other mamarim. Like gam bazeh Maamer eschem v'lo yisanu leidei yeshmokim lites zesh Maamer likenu amachnes atzvei bichlal hu rak b'negei lo iker. B'negei leprati yanyan ve'Yisholcha Mishpatim ve'yitziyatzim min haklal. Right? In words, what the Rebbe is learning here is that there's a very stark what he's saying is that he's mekabelo malchus shamayim. What he's struggling with is eidus chukim u'mishpatim. So what does the Rebbe learn from here? So the Rebbe learns here that the mitzvahs. There's different inyanim in the mitzvahs. There's the inyan klali in the prati, and then he finishes off in Sif Gimel. L'chein v'daik b'amayim v'gam l'achar she'omer likenu yesh mokim litois she'b'negel b'ritzim chumshot b'ritzim tzatzatzim min haklal v'chdei lish l'tozu havalei l'meimar oisana. Which means in the same word again that b'negel to eidus chukim mishpatim is moisi atzim min haklal. Now this often goes on until, where does this finish? This finishes in Sif Zayin. We go here Sif Zayin, the beginning of the second ket of Sif Zayin. This Maamer tchilus Maamer Yisholcha ben Chacham ma eidus chukim mishpatim he dekei much called mitzvah tzvui Hashem lama he nechlakis ve'eidus chukim mishpatim. Canal Sif Gimel. Right. So the Rebbe is learning from the Friedrich Rebbe that that's the shaila of the Ben Chacham. The shaila of the Ben Chacham is I accept the inyan klali, but I don't accept eidus chukim mishpatim. So what's interesting is the Rebbe learns here that the Friedrich Rebbe is hava minah, but it's not even a hava minah. It's not even correct to call it a hava minah. It's the Friedrich Rebbe being marchiv in the shaila, but not that that's the pshat of the shaila seben chacham. Verkehrt. And that he's looking for an answer on that issue. V'haraya. What's the answer the Friedrich Rebbe brings to the shaila of the ben chacham? The answer he brings is the answer in Sif Aleph. Nekuda sabir b'zeh b'adrushin. 14. Rei. The last marmakam. You have to make the stuff shit. Right? So the Friedrich Rebbe's answer is the regular answer of Chassidus. Now, Hokuf definitely verstehen. If the Friedrich Rebbe starts off asking, or he's in the pshat of the question of the Ben Chacham, he says that the shaila is that he's bothered by the Eidus Chukim Mishpatim. So what kind of answer is that? That the mitzvahs matan Torah are about Ma'aseh b'Poel. What kind of answer is that? Right? So obviously that's not the pshat. We'll we'll get to in a second what the Friedrich Rebbe means. But Vinashvi, he brings it in that context of leading to the answer that the Avodah is all about Ma'aseh B'Poel today. And what's the Ma'ila? And why? How could it be only Ma'aseh B'Poel? Because the Amshachas Atzmos happens through Ma'aseh. But from them, what the Rebbe does here, and this is Bechlal, so you see this, it's not the only Maamer, you see this in different Maamerim, especially when you look at when the Rebbe's Medayik and the Friedrich Rebbe's Maamerim, famous about the Tetzaveh, V'oid, that the Rebbe doesn't necessarily say the same beer Friedrich Rebbe says, but from the Oisius, from the Chidush Inyan, from the Shinoi of how the Friedrich Rebbe is Medayik in the Inyan. Like you see over here, he changes, he adds a small point, he adds a line that isn't brought by the previous Rebbeim. The Rebbe already sees here, the Friedrich Rebbe is already starting a Naya beer. Tavshin, the Friedrich Rebbe doesn't go to the new beer. The beer is the same beer as Brak Chassidus. But now the Rebbe is going to take it to a whole new beer. I mentioned earlier about the beer of America. This is where the American beer starts. Right? What was until now, this was the beer Bechlal Chassidus. And Tavshin, the Friedrich Rebbe is already starting a new Mahal. This is still there. The Tzveit Mahal, there's still more Mahalchim coming. There's a new Mahal. Now, what's the Pshat in the Friedrich Rebbe's Maamer? So in the Maamer ki Yisholcha. So where does he bring this? The Shaila is let's see if I'm at 43. Right, so first of all, you see this on page 24 of the Koyetz, page 44 of the Maamer. So the way the Friedrich Rebbe brings it is he's at the middle of the page, towards the bottom of the page. He's saying the Ben Chacham is similar to the Ben Rasha, because he also says Eschem. But Take, the Ben Chacham says Avayali Keinus, he's Machnis Atzmai Klal Yisrael, and he's not like the Ben Rasha that's Moitzi Atzmai Min Klal. But the Ben Chacham also says Eschem. The Hainu. It's all part of him trying to explain the mile of Ben Chacham over the Ben Rosh. But then he says that the Taka that he's Makabel Oil Machuzi is Barech, but nevertheless only when you get to the Ikar, he's Yisrael. On the Pirtei Yanyanim, he says Eschem. Mashenk in the Rasha, Mashenk in the Rasha is honest. But he finishes off with this in the Kud. The Chayra we see over here that the Ben Chacham, the Chayra does struggle with the Pirtei Yanyan. So he struggles with the Pirtei Yanyan. The Hemshech L'zeh comes the next Maamer. It's going to take a little time. Where are we holding now? I'll send some follow-up to this about this Nekudah. Therefore, Ryan learned in how it fits into the Mahalach here of the Maamer. The Nekudah is here in the beginning of Sif Gimel, of the next Maamer of the Yochim Eidus. He starts going into it, of what the place of the Ben Chacham here is in this, and then Hemshech L'zeh he says, I'll be mashing on that later. But Vinashvi, I want to bring out this Nekudah that number one, the Rebbe is learning a new beer Friedrich Rebbe doesn't learn, but the Rebbe is also learning the Friedrich Rebbe's Havamina as a maskana. Or that's Taka the Pshat in Shalas Ben Chacham. Friedrich Rebbe is bringing it as an issue. Why does the Ben Chacham speak that way? Because that's the mashmos. The Rebbe says no, is Taka, that's the mashmos, and Kumtais, and that's his issue. In this new Mahalach, the issue of the Ben Chacham is what is the place of Eidos Chukim Mishpatim, because he understands Ma'aseh B'Poel, that he gets. He's already the next stage. Fine, Ma'aseh V'Yikr. So was tut the chilukim of Eidos Chukim Mishpatim.